Hi friends, welcome back to Brenna Knows Best. I'm your host, Brenna Berg. Hi, how are you guys? I freaking missed you. Last week, I don't even feel like I was in my body, okay? Because last week was the worst week I've had in a while, and I'm not one to label weeks or days as like bad days, but it was awful. Okay, I didn't really go into the extent of it last week because I needed to get into the episode and my mind was like so all over the place, but Maydog was sick. Okay, and that was my third night of sleeping on the couch, getting up every 2 hours to take her to go potty. And it was horrible, but what we do for our little pupperonis, anything. Right? Like so worth it. So the day that I filmed that podcast, I'd gone to the vet, and I have only owned Maydog, as most of you know, for 2.5 years, but she's 7. So all of her main, like, you know, when puppies are puppies, you probably take them to the vet a lot. I wouldn't know because I've never owned a puppy, but I imagine I'm just not well versed in like going to the vet and that kind of thing. So every time I go in there, I go and I take her to the same vet that the previous owners took her to. So every time I go in, I'm like, hi, I'm Brenna. This is May. Here's my information. But if you want her history, it's going to be under this account because she had previous owners and whatever. And the front desk girl was so nice. She was like, wait, I'm so confused. Somebody just gave you this French bulldog? I'm like, yeah. And she was like, how much was she? I said, I don't know, and I don't want to know. She was like, that was a nice gift. I said, I know. But anyways, we go and see the vet, and he's so sweet, and he gives us some medication, okay? And that night, we finally slept through the night. We also got a probiotic and a gastrointestinal food, so that was great. But it did take me a while to come back from that. Like, I'm the perfect sleeper. I never have sleep issues. So that really knocked me off my kilter, but that was that. So that was like almost a week ago now. We've gone through the pills. She's feeling good. She's feeling great. I also wanted to start implementing, you guys, like highs and lows of my week so we can kind of recap. And I want to talk about a funny text that I got from my mother. Okay. And I don't know if I talk about my mom a lot. Well, I don't talk about her a lot because we don't catch up that often. We don't text. Nobody in my family really communicates. I don't know why that is. We're just all independent. But anyways, my mother sends a text to me and my brother in a group text. Okay. And to most people, you're like, okay, bitch, whatever. We've never had a group text. We don't just chit chat in a little group text unless it's like a one-off, like there's a photo or something. But even still, it's probably been years. Okay. And also, my mom just recently got an iPhone. She has like the iPhone 2, okay? And nobody else in my family has iPhones. Like my dad, my grandparents, they're all on their little flip phones. So we're just not that kind of fam, okay? So when my mom puts me and my brother in a group text, I'm already like, and then the text says, is there something I should know about? What? I said, oh God, what did I do? And I'm obviously going in my head. I'm like, wait, is there something that she heard through the grapevine, through something, but nothing's happened that she wouldn't know about? And so what do? Naturally, what would anybody do when you're put in a group text? I text my brother individually. I said, okay, maybe something happened with them. Maybe they're pregnant. Maybe like, I don't know. Okay. So I text my brother, and you guys, for reference, my brother is like one of the smartest people. So he's like so funny and clever. And maybe this isn't a good example, but he just cracks me the fuck up. And so I text him and I said, what is that text? Question mark, question mark, question mark. And this is like a minute after she sent it, because of course I'm like freaking out. And I said, is that just like a how are you guys text? Or is that a targeted text? Because I wasn't sure, maybe she just worded it funny. Like, is there anything I should know about? Like, what's new? You know, I was like, it feels like an attack, but maybe it's not. And my brother goes, I don't know. I was waiting for you to tell me what you did. And this is so on brand for my brother because, you guys, me and my brother as children, perfect, right? We never got in trouble, straight A's. We didn't drink alcohol, like not perfect in a sense of like whatever, but as children of adults for my parents, like we caused no problems, especially my brother. Okay. My brother was like basically a mute Okay. Every single teacher that I had after him, they were like, oh my gosh, Brandon's sister. And then at the end of the semester, they're like, you talk a hell of a lot more than your brother. So out of the two of us, I'm like the rambunctious, outgoing one, but I'm still not a bad kid. So that's so funny that he said, I don't know, I'm waiting for you to tell me what you did. So I said, with laughing emojis. I said, I'm confused. What would either of us have done? So I texted back, obviously, after I learned that he didn't do anything. And I said, hey, Mom, like nothing going on here unless you're just asking how we're doing. And my brother answered back and he said like, yep, all good here. Just, getting some job applications out. And she's like, oh, for some reason. Oh, preface, my parents are divorced. Okay. Duh. We know this. So she goes, oh, for some reason, your dad butt dialed me. Okay. Good to hear you guys are okay or whatever. For some reason, your dad butt dialed me. So, Mom, a butt dial means that it was an accident. So there was no reason. But of course, she's like, also, as I was analyzing her text, she's probably like, oh my gosh, what does my dad need? Like, she obviously went into mama mode and was like, oh gosh, is something wrong with the children? Naturally. Nothing's wrong. All is good. My dad just butt dialed her. But that gave me like so much anxiety. And I don't get anxiety. I'm not that person, but I was like, and I know I didn't do anything. But anyways, that was that. So I caught up with my mom a little bit. I'm trying to think, okay, what other things did I want to tell you? Let's talk about the books. Naturally, you guys, if he had been with me, everybody on Instagram said, get your tissues ready. I did cry. And it's funny because I brought it up to Carter and he was like, who would cry from a book? And I'm sitting in here, he's studying. I'm sitting here and I'm like trying to be quiet. Not like he's never seen me cry. Hello, he's my boyfriend. But because he said that, I was like, and he turns around and he was like, oh my gosh. And then I explained and he was like, that is sad. He's just such like a boy. Good. I didn't like sob. And you already knew kind of what was going to happen from the prologue at the beginning. Good. It was a little bit more of a challenging read, like the high school, like in some aspects, it brought back a lot of like memories and things. I was thinking about me being a kid and in high school and like all those things. So it was like kind of relatable, but also it was, I don't know. I was like, okay, let's get to the meat and potatoes, of it. Is that the right terminology? No. Oh, also, wait, I don't want to give any spoilers. Have I spoiled it? No. Okay, one thing. So if you don't want to know, this is like such a small detail. Somebody answered me, and I won't say her name, on Instagram, one of my OGs. And she said, I hated that book. I couldn't get past the fact that she wore tiaras. Crying. So as I was reading it, I was like hyper aware of it. But anyways, I started then the sequel to it, or the second book, if only I had told her. And I'm already liking this more because it's like the current time. At first I was like, oh my gosh, are we going to go through his childhood now? But I like it so far. I'm only to like page 70, I think. So I haven't really gotten into it, but it's cute. And it's like, it's nice to hear his side. So I'm excited about that. What else, you guys? Oh, something I wanted to talk about. Costco. Okay. Do you guys go to Costco? If you don't, I'll make this really quick. Why does Costco not keep the same things in stock? Because I went there yesterday to get almond slices. I use that in my yogurt. And then I get these Fairlife protein shakes. They didn't have either. And I call Carter and I'm like, what the frick? Like, are they out? But there was no spot for them either. I'm searching high and low. He's like, oh yeah, they don't carry everything all the time. Like sometimes they have it and sometimes they don't. Then why do we go here? Like, do us too, as just individuals, which there are other things we get, like when we're low on fruit, I'll get that, and some sort of chicken and like little things. But when I tell you I only went there for these two things and they didn't have it, I'm like, that's kind of annoying. Can you call ahead and ask? I don't want to have to call them every time. Anyways, those are my grievances with Costco. I think we can get into the episode. Oh, I might have intro music. If it's not on this one, I think it'll be on next week. I finally decided to get help, okay, with my social media, and I have my girls, and I won't get into it. but they did recommend intro music, which a lot of you also have suggested. And even Carter has said it to me, but I'm just so new to all of this. So hopefully I get some good bops. I was listening earlier and it was all like elevator music or like super cheesy music. So hopefully I can find something good. Well, I won't pick something unless it's good, but it's kind of being a little bit harder than I thought it was going to be. But anyways, that is all I have, I think, on that. Let's get into the episode. Boundaries. Okay, boundaries in dating, boundaries in relationships. And there's one thing that I wanted to talk about prior. I should probably preface all my videos saying that I'm not a therapist. Everything that I'm saying is just my advice. And this is kind of a deeper topic, not a deeper topic, but like I kind of stray away from getting really deep into like attachment styles and those sort of things because I am not a professional and I don't know all things. It's just from my perspective. So I want to make that preface today because when I talk about boundaries, this is all from my brain and they're all my definitions of things. And that's why I wanted to first say that to me, in my opinion, boundaries in any sense are to protect yourself. We do not place boundaries to control people or get people to do other things or things that we want. Boundaries are strictly to say, hey, this is what I'm comfortable with. Okay? I need to do these things, or I only allow people in my life that, kind of not, again, that almost sounded controlling in a way, but if there are things that people do, this, and this, my boundaries, like I just do not want these people in my life. And it's not to control. It's not to tell people to do this, that, or the other. It is strictly to protect yourself. And I want to go into my little spiel and then I'll go through the questions. I'm hoping to answer a lot of them now. For example, there were a lot of questions about not having boundaries in the beginning and then now deciding that you want some. You can at any time decide that you want boundaries. Is it a little bit harder to probably implement? Yes, but at any time you can decide, I don't like this. I don't want to deal with this. Okay. You can do that. And also we learn to place boundaries because of circumstances that happen. We don't just pop out of the womb and know every single scenario that we're going to be in. I'm actually in this position right now. I'm in a situation I've never been in before and I'm navigating new boundaries because if I've never been here before, how would I know to have these boundaries? So do not feel guilty when making boundaries, even though you didn't place them before. How were you to know that the situation was going to happen or that this certain thing was going to make you feel a separate or different way? That is human. That is normal. Okay. And what is also important here, which goes back to my first episode. Okay. Your relationship with yourself is the most relationship ever. And you will only know how to make boundaries if you know yourself. Like you need to understand what makes you upset, what you're okay with, what you're not okay with. Okay. And we're all learning. Like I literally just said, if you've never been in a situation, how are you to know? But if you're new to setting boundaries, I feel like I used to not have any boundaries at all. I just did what everybody else wanted me to, and just to make everybody else happy. You will eventually learn. And if you're obviously listening, like wanting to learn, that's a good start. With dating, I feel like the boundaries start in those first dates. There are just things that you are willing to accept and you are willing not to accept, not willing to accept. Like, for example, I talk about this when I was dating. Okay. Number one, I would not allow men to pen pal me. And if you don't know what pen paling means, like the whole texting weeks before meeting, because I wanted a man who wanted to take me on a date and I wanted to meet people in person right away. Okay. So if a man was not initiating a date right away, that was it. Okay. If he was texting me, what's up? I wouldn't answer. Like that was a boundary because I knew what I wanted and I wanted a man who wanted to take me on a date. So that was it. I wasn't going to say, hey, you need to ask me out on a date, because the thing is, there is a healthy line of expressing your boundaries. And I feel like once you're in a relationship, you need to express those things, which we'll talk about. But in the first stages of dating and meeting people, like there are just certain things that don't need to be expressed. Like they are showing you who they are. This man is clearly not super interested in actually going on a date. He just wants somebody to text. And that's not a man I'm interested. Another thing, a man who only text after 8 p.m. What's up? Like that just gives college Netflix and chill vibes. That wasn't what I was looking for. I would not respond. That is a boundary that I placed because I wasn't looking for that sort of hookup relationship. Okay. Another thing, like bailing on a first date. If a man bailed on the first date, I wasn't giving him a second chance, because how did you plan a date for a time that you were free and then just weren't free? Like, of course, do things come up? But again, that was my boundary. And I got a question about having too many boundaries. And that's such a good question, because once you start protecting your peace and getting like a little too good at boundaries, you're like, oh my gosh, this is so fun. I don't need this person to bother me. I don't need that. But it becomes unhealthy when you are then disconnecting from people. If all of a sudden everybody is doing things against your boundaries, okay, then you need to look inward, especially with a partner. Conflict will rise with a partner. Like there are so many nuanced, everything is nuanced. Like you are constantly going to be put in different scenarios and things. And if you're just like, I'm not willing to accept this, and this, or the disrespect, sometimes people don't even mean to be hurtful or disrespectful. They are making choices based on themselves. And maybe you got hit in the crossfire, or however you want to say that. That's when you express like, okay, this felt disrespectful to me. Like I felt this way. And here's another little tip that I wanted to say. Don't attack. Don't say you did this, you did that. That is not a boundary. That's just you being mean and being mad at somebody. Boundaries, in my opinion, okay, it's this made me feel this way and I don't like that. I got a lot of questions about girl best friends or following Instagram models. It is so normal to not love that. Okay. There are some girls that don't care about those kinds of things. And of course, with a girl best friend, there are so many different definitions. If a man calls a girl, like if Carter were like my girl best friend, who he's been friends with for years since elementary school, but they catch up once a month on the phone, like cool, that is okay. A girl best friend to somebody else could be hanging out one-on-one every other night. That not cool with. Okay. So there's a lot of different definitions there, but it just comes down to what you feel is appropriate and then expressing that. Like people aren't going to know how you feel unless you tell them. Okay. And this is also why, as if we don't know, communication is key. Okay. And that way, early on in a relationship, you can talk about the things, you can talk about potentially things that might come up and already have a conversation about it. Like talk about infidelity early on, finances, sex, talk about all of your experiences and how different things make you feel different ways. That way you can have these conversations. And if things come up, it's not awkward. And you can also be like, oh, hey, I don't like that this happened, or I felt this way. If the communication is open and honest from day one, it just makes these conversations so much easier, because if you're so closed off and you never communicate with your partner about anything, it's going to be awkward to say, hey, during sex, I didn't like that you did that. Okay, that made me uncomfortable because you guys haven't talked about these things. Does that make sense? Sorry, we're really just jumping into it. And here's another little tip in dating, especially: quit trying to be the cool girl. Okay, quit trying to pretend that you're chill with everything, because what's gonna happen is in the early stages, you're like, I don't care that you do this and I don't care that you do that, even though you do freaking care. If you don't care, cool, then keep doing that. But if you do care, don't pretend, because then when you're in a relationship, you do a 180. You're like, don't do this. Don't go out with your friends. I hate that you have girl best friends. You were acting like it was cool right away. So that is just never going to work. Like, don't accept behavior just to get the man, because why would he change? And don't try and change him. I get into this tangent a million times. Like, that is not the goal of a partner. You should love your partner as they are. Okay. Of course, we're naturally going to change and evolve. But if in the beginning you have these boundaries, but you are just allowing him to disrespect them or to cross your boundaries, or however you want to word that, but then you get in a relationship and then you express them, that's not a good idea. And that's not very nice or helpful to have a healthy and good relationship, you know? Okay, I keep going on side tangents, so I'm gonna get back into the questions or get into the questions. That way I am on track. Okay, number one, I got so many questions about your thoughts on this or your thoughts on that. And here is the wonderful thing about boundaries. You get to decide. Now, can I give my opinion? Yes, I'm gonna use one for example, because it's kind of funny, but I get it. Like, these are real things, especially if you live together. She asked, what are your thoughts on your significant other going number 1/number 2 while you're in the bathroom as well? Okay, here's the thing. Some people wouldn't give a damn. I'm one of those people. I'm not really grossed out by anything. Just so you guys know this about me, like, I don't really care, but some people do. And like, that is so normal. But here's the thing. You just need to say, hey, I don't like this. And again, let's learn about boundaries. You say to your partner, let's say, hey, I think that it's gross. Okay. When like I'm in the room and you go to the bathroom, or when you're in the bathroom and I am using the potty, whatever you, sorry if I'm wording that incorrectly, but you got what I'm saying? If he literally goes, that's weird, like, I don't care. Okay, that's the issue. The issue is him not respecting your boundary to any other person. If Carter came to me and was like, hey, he does, don't come in here, I'm going to the bathroom, I'm like, of course not. That is like such a normal and healthy thing. That is technically a boundary. Hello. Okay. We all need a little privacy every once in a while. But with all of the things that you guys are asking me, another common question was, how long do I wait to have sex? Like, what boundary should I put when first dating? That is up to you. And like, if one time you have a one night stand, but then the next time you want to wait, I actually got a question about a girl who was a virgin in her 20s. Again, amazing. Love that. Whether you're waiting for marriage, I don't care, or it just hasn't happened. I cannot express enough that with your person, these conversations will never scare them away. Okay. And I know that it can be discouraging if you've been in a situation and you're like, I'm a virgin, you tell a guy, and then all of a sudden he's gone, he ghosts. Okay. The problem is not that you're a virgin, it's that he was a little bitch. Yep. And he's not the one, because with your forever person, that would never scare them away. That honestly might even be like a green flag. Green flags, red flags are so different for every other person, and it doesn't matter, but it just matters that you communicate. And also, I tell all of my friends this, the sooner you can communicate whatever the hell is going on in your head that you're worried about. Like, if you were dating a guy and you feel that he wants to have sex, but you're not ready, if you can just say, hey, even though it's a little bit awkward, although I will say, if you have hard conversations with your family, your friends, relationships, the more hard conversations you have, the easier it gets. Like, for example, me and Carter, when we started dating, we were able to hit all of these conversations because I had so many difficult conversations with people in my past. It doesn't even have to be romantic relationships. So the sooner that you can just get comfortable communicating things in general. But back to my main point. Sorry, I'm jumping around. Okay. I had a friend recently who was going through a breakup, and she was in her head and she wanted to ask this, that, and the other. And I'm like, just say what you're feeling. Ask them. Okay. Nothing is worse than sitting in your head ruminating over whatever it is you're freaking out about, when you could just have a conversation and know the answer. So for example, back on track here, if a man is like, if he's pressuring you to have sex, that's a no-no. But if you feel like he wants it and you don't, just say, hey, like, I really like you. You know, I love where this is going. I'm just like not quite ready to like get intimate or have sex yet. Like, if this is a good guy and he actually likes you, he will respect that boundary. Okay. And if he's like, it's been weeks, if he gets a sassy little attitude about it, he's not the one. He's a shitty dude. So like, hello, amazing, goodbye. Okay. Oftentimes as girls, I don't know what we're so afraid of. Oh, and I got a question. Sorry, I'm jumping all over the place. Somebody asked me, what do you mean when you say stay firm in your boundaries? I mean that no matter what, no matter how much you think you like a dude, if you've expressed a boundary and he constantly crosses said boundary, you leave. Okay, that is it. That's what I mean. Stay firm. But Brenna, I love him. But Brenna, I really want it to work. Why? Like this man, it's proving that he's not the one for you. If there's something that you care deeply enough about that it makes you upset every time that he does the thing and he cannot learn to not do the thing. Again, it's not to control them. It's to protect yourself. Like recognize, hey, like clearly this is not a person that I'm interested in, or like this is not my person if he does this thing that bothers me so much. And it is then breaking up with said dude, or in the early stages. For example, when I talk about what I did, like if a man that I was interested in texted me at 9 p.m. and said, hey, what's up, want to come over? That's it. Goodbye. He's not the one. That is a boundary that I placed. Okay. And then I wouldn't date them. So staying firm in your boundaries is creating a boundary is really not that hard. Figuring out yourself what you like and don't like and saying, hey, I will not accept this is not that hard. But implementing the boundary, actually sticking to it is the hard thing, especially once you're in a committed relationship. Because once you're in deep, you now have time involved and it feels like an investment. And you might feel like, hey, I never expressed this before, so it's my fault. Like now that I'm creating this boundary, like I never said this before. So like he doesn't know. If you expressed it, he knows. If you changed your mind about something, that is okay. We are humans. We are evolving. Okay. But you get so attached, but you have to decide and choose yourself and know that this boundary is created to make your life better and make sure your needs are being met, you know? Okay. Sorry. That was a long tangent, but that's why we're going to get back on track with these questions. Okay. This literally is exactly what I was just talking about. Setting boundaries in the same relationship after being loose with them for years. You can always change them. You can always put on boundaries. You can always do whatever the hell you want to do, but it just comes down to communicating that, especially with a boyfriend. If you guys have been dating for a long time, that is the person you should be able to talk to. And it's not always going to be easy. It's not always not going to be awkward. Okay, but just saying how you feel, I cannot express enough that if they love and care about you, then they will hear you out. They might not be perfect. Again, there's a difference between somebody choosing to like cross the boundary a million times or somebody just like not being sure if it's like a gray area, you know? For example, you're like, I don't like being disrespected. I mean, who does? But sometimes people don't know exactly what that looks like if they haven't been in a scenario. So give them grace. Okay, you know, now all of my toxic little gals are going to be like, oh my gosh, okay, he crossed his boundary. He cheated on me once, but Brenna said to give him grace. No. Okay, you guys know what I mean. You know what I mean. Oh, this is a great follow-up question. How many chances would you give someone if they cross a boundary? See, boundaries look different. And again, I'm not a therapist. This is just my opinion. Like, for example, cheating. That is like a huge thing. That is a once and done situation for myself. Okay, some people aren't like me. Oh my gosh, I had this conversation with Carter the other day. I saw a video or something and it was a woman talking about how like people always say that you should just dump a cheater, but it's not always that easy. And I said, yeah, it is. I'll chop your balls off and I will walk out of this apartment. And he was like, babe, you're scaring me. And I was like, that shouldn't be scary because you should never want to cheat on me. He's like, I'm not going to, but like calm down. And I was like, no, I need to make it very clear how I feel about that. But anyway, so like that's something. But for example, like let's say the girl who was asking me about going to the bathroom while you're in there, like if it slipped his mind, because again, like, yes, you stated that, but if for so long you guys have been, let's say, using the bathroom at the same time, you're getting ready and he goes pee. Okay. But you now stated like, hey, I don't like that. Could have totally slipped his mind. And like, that's a minor thing. But again, you get to decide. So like, it doesn't matter if you want a once and done policy for like all things, go ahead, like protect yourself. Boundaries are to just make sure that your needs are being met and that you are not hurting yourself just to like be with another human. Okay. Because I promise there are men out there that wouldn't cross the boundaries, you know? So that's up to you to decide like how many times they can cross a boundary. Okay, how to say I'm not looking for just a hookup. I'm getting better at it. Would love your take. I think just not putting yourself in the circumstances, like make sure in the early stages that you're going out on dates. Like don't go back to his house. Don't go back to your house. Sometimes I don't know if they always necessarily need to be stated. You can, of course, like I am always an over communicator to my core. But again, if you don't want to do that, I think it's super easy to just not put yourself in that situation. If you're at a bar, like that's not going to happen. Or if you go out to eat or you go to a sports game, just like don't put yourself in the scenarios where if you have a hard time saying no in the moment, don't even go anywhere near that. But you can be upfront. Like if on the first date, you want to be like, I'm looking for something like serious, go ahead. Again, you cannot do the wrong thing. Like be you. If you're a person who like loves just like saying how you feel and what you need, do that. Again, the right person will love you for it and it won't scare them away. You cannot do the wrong thing with the right person. Okay, so pop off. But my advice would just be to not put yourself in that scenario. How do you know what boundaries are right for you? I think number one, if there is a situation that constantly is like triggering you, I think you need to sit down and number one, ask if it's coming from a rational place, because sometimes we're just crazy bitches. Like sometimes we're just jealous. Sometimes we just like have triggered emotions from past relationships. I actually got this question, a girl talking about her current boyfriend having a girl best friend, but in her previous relationship, her boyfriend cheated on her with the girl best friend, which I know that can be so easy to carry on. Number one, I would say this is a new human being. But number two, like I think if you express that to your partner, they would understand and they would want to like help make sure that you feel comfortable. If that means they just don't text as much or Snapchat, like however it looks, because again, I said girl best friends, that definition can look different for so many people. What was my original question? I'm so sorry. How do you know what boundaries are right for you? I think these feelings will come up and you're like, okay, I need to like speak on this, and nobody is perfect. And when I even look up, like, when I look at my relationship right now with Carter, I couldn't even tell you a single boundary that I have. Like, it's not even something that's written out in my head. I'm not like, can't do this, or like, I don't like this. It's like when things happen. But I also think that early on in our dating stages, number one, we communicated a lot, but number two, like I was already pretty set again with like the bailing and the texting all the time and texting late at night and hooking up super early on led me to this like healthy relationship, because we weren't just hooking up, and he was very serious and looking for a relationship, because I made sure that like he was asking me on a date. So early on, the sooner you can actually set boundaries, the better. It doesn't always work that way. And trust me, I learned from experience. But you'll know, like everybody is so individual, and don't let other people tell you what your boundaries should be. They are your boundaries. We are all different. We all come from different places and are okay with certain things and not okay with others. Okay. And it's just like a learning process. And the more relationships you're in and the more dates you go on, like, you'll learn. That wasn't super helpful, but I try my best. Okay, here's another example. Sharing locations just because I'm not a fan of it. Again, you say, hey, I don't love that. I have given you no reason to not trust me. It has nothing to do with infidelity or cheating. I just don't feel good about sharing locations, whatever your feelings are. I could go either way. With my previous boyfriend, we had each other's locations, and with Carter, I don't. Like, I don't feel that strongly about one way or the other, but however you feel, just express that. And if he's like so adamant on getting your location or sharing locations, he's probably not the one, like that stinks, but that's kind of is what it is. Okay, boundaries with female friends. I got this question a lot. And again, just communicating, and it can always change. Like maybe you are just triggered from something in the past, like jealousy is a real thing. It sucks. Like it's not a fun emotion to feel, because sometimes our feelings are so not valid. Like if it really is so innocent, again, it just looks so different. Like if they only talk once a month, they catch up, but they've known each other for years. I think to me, that would be normal. Now, if Carter was texting a girl every single day, that would not fly with me. And I would just express that. And again, it just depends on what he chooses to do from there. If he said, no, this female friendship means a lot to me and I need to speak to her every day, I'm not going to sit here and accept it, because I know that just I would resent him. I would constantly be feeling angry, and I don't want to feel that way. So that's why I would leave the relationship. Again, this is a boundary. This is why it's for ourselves. I'm sorry if I'm repeating the same things, but it's not to control them. I would never want to make Carter or any partner do anything, make them do something and make them not do something. But what I can do is say, like, I don't like this, and then see if after you tell them that they continue to do it, or if they react at all. And if they don't, then that's just not the one. You know? Okay, you guys, I cannot answer all of these questions because there's so many. So I hope you guys that did ask questions, I can cover them in next episodes. Some of them don't have to do with boundaries per se. I'm trying to hit the ones that have everything to do with boundaries. Oh, I talked about this already a little bit. Do you have any advice on feeling like I have too many boundaries? And I know the girl that asked this, so I'm kind of coming from a perspective of knowing her. I think that you are okay. I think when it's harmful is when you don't allow any conflict or anything to happen in your life. Like anytime someone crosses you, you say no and you're done. There needs to be room for communication, but I know that you're dating in specific. I think having more boundaries than no boundaries is always better. Duh. But I think when you do have a high standards and a lot of boundaries, it is going to be harder to find somebody. And I don't think that's a bad thing at all. It's just something that you have to accept that, hey, I might not find my person right away, but that's also good, because then, you know, once you finally do find that person that does meet your standards or your boundaries or however you want to say it, that is going to be your person. Because when I look at it, I don't think I have super rigid boundaries, but I did not put up with a lot of shit when I was dating, but it led me to Carter, you know, like he was exactly what I was looking for. And as stupid as like the little things that I talk about that I would not do, if his profile had this, that, and the other, I was just like, oh, I don't like that. That is just that. And then it led me here. So I think you just have to make sure and be self-aware. And I know that you are, that they're not crazy boundaries, but if you just are making sure that you don't get disrespected and that you're finding a partner that works for you and your lifestyle, then just accept it might take a little longer, but it's good. Like I am a fan of probably more boundaries than no boundaries, you know? I don't love this one, but I'm going to talk about it. My fiance doesn't think he needs to place boundaries with his ex-wife for both him and me. You guys are engaged, so I need to tread lightly. I imagine they have kids together, because if they didn't, why would they need to have a relationship in the first place? You need to get clear on like what you're okay with and what you're not, and tell him that. And if he is just not caring how you feel, then I don't think you should marry that man. This is like really serious and a little bit heavy, but you cannot sit and live the rest of your life if he has children and like this goes on and on and on, and you are constantly feeling like your boundaries are being crossed and you're constantly in a state of like not good feelings. You can't live like that, and you shouldn't want to live like that. Like you just shouldn't, you know? So I would not put up with it. And I know you guys are engaged, so that's a crazy thing to say, but I don't care how much you love him. Like that is something you're going to be dealing with for the rest of your life. And it sounds like you're already dealing with it. I don't think you should have to deal with things in your relationship. Of course, our little moments and conflicts going to happen, but that is going to be an ongoing thing. So I would just get very clear with him, his boundaries and your boundaries, and what that looks like, and get on the same page, or I would not marry that guy, because again, it's the rest of your life and it's your life. Like I know you love him, but there are a million people out there, and constantly being in a state of turmoil is not worth it. Like that is the rest of your life. Okay. And then if you have kids, like things are probably not going to get better if he's already not like accepting you and your boundaries. So I would just be very communicative and get on the same page. Okay, significant others' families being interested in your relationship finances, always being around. See, It just depends on what you like. And if you feel like they're in your relationship and you don't want this, I have a friend in this exact circumstance, and she got clear with her boyfriend and he didn't want that either, but it had been a certain way for so long that his parents were constantly in his business, but he just accepted it because it was always just him. He's an only child, so like whatever. And then they got in this serious relationship, and the girlfriend, my friend, is like, hey, like I just can't live like this. And he actually was like, I can't either, like it's just been this way for so long. And then he started setting boundaries with his family. So I would just get clear with your partner, and if he doesn't see a problem with it, then it's probably not going to change, and he's probably not the one. But if he might feel the same way, I would communicate that, and then he can start setting the boundaries. That's kind of on him. With his family, I feel like, you know, you express to him, and then you as a team figure out what that looks like. That's just my opinion. Oh, I love this question. How to set boundaries with yourself to not get attached to people too fast. Struggle with this. There are some tips and tricks. I think this is just a general thing. Like for me, I think the not texting before a date is super helpful in not getting attached, because it's so easy to get along with someone over text, but you have to get along in person. And I think so many people get attached prior to the date. They go on the date, you might vibe, but there could be a lot of issues that you are overseeing or like just turning a blind eye because you think you already have this connection because you texted for a month straight. I think that's one really big thing. And I think not stalking the socials, not picturing your guys' life together, okay, going into a first date, just being like, okay, I'm just meeting a human, and then going from there. I think the attachment starts from texting, because you get so used to just communicating with this person. I think texting 24/7 creates this unhealthy attachment. And the whole adding on social media, and like you go down the whole, I've done it. Like I was this way in college and I'm like, oh my God. And I would get my hopes up, and then you meet them or you start hanging out and things aren't right, but you've already built this idea of them in your head. So you're like, oh no, but this and this. So you look past all of the very real things that are happening, but because you've created this in your head. So those are just a few tips. You really just got to sit yourself down and say, hey bitch, okay, we are getting attached too fast. Like, let's cool it. Maybe take a break from dating. But those are a few of my tips. Sorry, I thought I had a good answer. I think that is a good answer. Boundaries with yourself are the hardest because it's so easy to just tell yourself like, whatever, you know, but the better you can get at them with yourself, the better your relationships and just then boundaries with other people are going to be. So it is important. Okay. And last thing, I got to following hot girls on Instagram or boundaries with cell phones. Again, I have said the same thing again and again. You just decide how you feel and what you're okay with and express that, and then see where it goes from there. That is my tips on boundaries. I was going to say sorry, but I don't know what I'm sorry about. I hope you guys liked this episode. I got a few comments like, so excited for this. And if there are other facets of this conversation that you want to talk about, message me. Oh, you guys, I want to start like ending my podcast. I want to do like little segments, and I want to do like horror first dates or just like horror date stories. So if you guys want to send those in to me, that way I can end each episode, but they have to be like really good, like really bad dates. I'm going to pull up just something on BuzzFeed. I literally just typed in, horror date stories, because I think this could be fun. And I love just like hearing about other people's situations. Okay, let's just read this very first one. I ran into a guy from high school years after graduation, and he invited me to meet up with him and some of our other friends who I had lost contact with. Well, when I got to the restaurant, there was nobody else there, just him. Yep, I was ambushed into an unwanted date. To make it worse, he had told the waitstaff we were on a date and to take their time. 2 hours later, I was finally able to leave. He walked me to my car, even though I asked him not to. And when I went to get in, he blocked me and leaned in for a kiss, which I was not down for at all. It was a dark parking lot and there was nobody around. Super sketchy. Well, something at dinner did not agree with him. I turned my head to the side and went for a friendly hug instead of his attempted kiss, and his bowels unloaded. It was the loudest and gnarliest fart I have ever heard. It happened the second the hug commenced, and he didn't let go until the fart was done. Then he tried to kiss me again. I deflected into another awkward hug, and he farted again. All in all, it was at least 45 seconds of combined ass blast. In the end, he made eye contact and said, "Let's do this again." Hard pass. Oh my. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if that happened on a good day? Like, oh my God, I would be in turmoil. I'd be like, oh my gosh, do I see him again? How did he not acknowledge it? What do you mean? And also telling the wait staff you're on a date. How are men so unaware? Or like, how are they just like not cool? No offense, men, but like, a lot of them seem to have no sort of self-awareness or awareness of how women feel about them. And that is terrifying. Oh my gosh. Okay, wait, I love that. I just pulled that up on a BuzzFeed, but I would love to hear your stories. And then at the end, I could do a horror date story. I just thought of this idea. Well, actually, sorry, Carter thought of this idea. He was like, that could be super fun, especially if it was like from your girls. I'm like, totally, because I love like the dating aspect of things. But anyways, this is all rough draft. Okay, we're still figuring the podcast out. Again, maybe this will have music. I don't know. Intro. We'll see. But thank you guys for being here and thank you for your support. And I can't wait to see you guys next week. Okay, bye guys.